is Sheila's Take, a podcast where you can hear my take on everything: love, hate, relationships, family, and today's issues with a godly perspective. I'm your host, Sheila Dunbar. Thank you for joining me. Well, welcome back to Sheila's Take, and get ready to be enlightened and empowered as I welcome a remarkable guest on my podcast today, Miss Dana S. Diaz. Dana is a shining example of strength, resilience, and transformation. As an esteemed author, her groundbreaking book, Gasping for Air, The Stranglehold of Narcissistic Abuse, dives deep into the intricate web of narcissistic abuse, serving as a beacon of hope for those yearning to break free and reclaim their lives. Dana has dedicated herself to shedding light on this issue, offering guidance to survivors through her empathetic words. She provides invaluable insights and strategies to help individuals navigate these seemingly insurmountable challenges that arise from such toxic relationships. But Dana is more than just an author. She's a catalyst for change, encouraging victims to heal and empowering them to regain their self-worth. Her genuine passion for helping others shines through her engaging interviews and speaking engagements. So let's get ready to embark on a transformation experience that will leave you empowered to take and ready to take control of your narrative. Dana, welcome to Sheila's Take.
Thank you so much. And thank you for that beautiful introduction. I'm like looking around like, who is this that she's talking about? I need to hear what this person has to say.
Well, welcome. I'm so honored and I'm so happy that you were able to be a guest on my podcast. And I was so moved by your story and the way you just came out of everything that you went through. Can you share a little bit about your personal journey and how it led you to become an expert on narcissistic abuse?
Yes, absolutely. Because I think it is important for people to know I am not sitting here, trying to impose any beliefs from a medical perspective or a psychological perspective, right. As a doctor or a therapist or anything. I am a normal person who's been through it, and I've been through it for over 40 years of my life. And if that's not valid, credible experience, I don't know what is. So essentially, to give people some background about my story, I was born to a teenage mother who didn't want me. And this was back in the times that it wasn't okay to be a pregnant teenager. So she met a lot of ridicule and shame, and certainly it affected her. But the fact that she actually had her tubes tied so she couldn't have more children, she had them tied immediately after my birth. Yeah. So I don't think she wanted children at all. Anyway, I was loved by my great grandma, thank God. And I had a wonderful godmother who is still with us, and I love her dearly. But my mother just always was very emotionally detached from me. She ended up marrying a man who I never liked. He was in our lives since I was maybe a year old, but they got married when I was 7. But I never liked him. He outwardly was very outgoing and was always squeezing me and smiling, putting on this show of look at us, the happy family. But behind closed doors, it was a whole different ball game, especially when my mother wasn't around. She had some, long work hours. So she would leave sometimes before we were even awake in the morning and come home, late after dinner. So he was basically left in charge of me getting ready in the morning and all. And during those times, it started with verbal abuse, with him telling me every single day as far back as I can remember that nobody ever wanted you. You shouldn't even be here. I shouldn't have to pay for another man's child. I was a burden, a bother. I was stupid. I was fat. I was everything. You know, he criticized everything I ate, even a peanut butter jelly sandwich when I'm 6 years old, telling me that it's going to make me fat. Just terrible, terrible things that I unfortunately, you know, I stood up for myself. I knew it was wrong, but after, you know, what was it, 18 when I left the house. So you're talking about maybe 12 years or so, 13 years possibly that we lived with him, or that I lived with him, I should say, that I internalized it as much as I didn't want to believe it. And I knew it was wrong. I internalized it. So now my self-image was awful. I had no self-esteem, no self-confidence. Everything about me was diminished. Every success, every talent, every achievement, nothing was good enough. I just wasn't, they just didn't want me to be anything more than what they thought I was, which was garbage. And then the physical abuse didn't help because, you know, in the midst of all this verbal stuff, my mother was looking the other way, telling me when I would tell her of these things, saying, oh, he would never say that. You're lying to get attention. You're probably just jealous that I have a relationship with him and not so much with you. But he would physically, I mean, just, he was brutal.
Wow.
You know, so many people have suffered much worse, but you know, he would grab me by the hair, by the back of my head and bang my head against the wall. So I'd go to school like this, you know, with I kind of had that gothic look going on with hair hanging. Like, I think I was like Wednesday Addams before she was popular, you know, like I always just kind of looked dim and grim and kind of tried to hide in myself so nobody would notice me. But you know, there were a lot of arm and wrist grabs where, you know, where somebody grips you so tightly and they hold on so it leaves hand marks and it hurts. But then we graduated up to when I was 17. The worst situation was when I was straddled and slapped and punched. I think there was so much going on. One of them pinned me down, the other was beating me, and then my mother actually was the one who put her hands around my neck and strangled me until I was blacking out, and I finally realized I could kick her to get her off of me, and I escaped the house. So that was my childhood. It wasn't nice, it wasn't pretty. I was never in their eyes meant to be anything more, like I said, than nothing. And I went into the world feeling like nothing. So it's really not a surprise that I ended up falling for somebody else who seemed to love me and acted in certain ways that made me feel loved, but was also abusive. Because looking back, I now realize I had been a people-pleasing codependent. You know, I was so starved of love that I liken it to like when you're holding a treat in front of a puppy and the puppy is like shaking and trembling, like, give me the treat, give me the treat. I'll give you my paw, I'll roll over, I'll do anything for that treat. That was me. I just wanted love. And it almost didn't even matter who loved me. I just needed somebody,
Somebody
you
to
know, to love me, to get that external validation that I didn't have within myself. So then I ended up with my ex, about whom my book is about, that 25-year relationship, which I hate to say, it wasn't really good from the get-go. Even the first night that I mean, I think we were at that point in time where people didn't necessarily go on dates anymore. You just kind of hung out. But even from the first time we hung out, it was a strange night. It didn't end very well. I was very uncomfortable with his behavior, and he was very aloof and arrogant, but at the same, and he was disrespectful to me. but at the same time, he was agreeing, like almost mimicking everything that I was sharing with him, trying to connect with him a little deeper. It was, oh, me too. I'm the black sheep too. I had a rough time with my parents too. And,
And this is
he
all
said a
before
lot of things that made me feel like he got me.
this was all before you were married? You were still dating at this point?
Yeah. That was just when we first met. And, 3 weeks into, I say whatever it was, I'd already met his parents.
Mm-hmm.
He already was telling me he loved me. He was getting ready to move me in his apartment, but he was also, and here's again that conflict in my head. He was also already throwing things at me, having angry outbursts that really made me nervous. So it's not like there weren't red flags.
Yeah, yeah.
Because believe me, coming out of my childhood, there was no way in hell I was going to let, I was not looking for any part of that. But at the same time, there was nobody else. And, I'm just going to say the word. I was desperate.
Right.
He was showing me love and affection sometimes. And I needed that little bit more than I needed to be alone. I
Right.
just needed something to keep me going. And so I hung on to it. I hung on to it because I knew that if I kind of followed the unspoken rules and acted in accordance with what he wanted from me and did what he expected me to do, that he would sort of reward me with love and affection, whether it be through words or caressing my cheek or, taking me to dinner, whatever it was. So the bad times were really, really bad right from the get-go, but the good times were really, really
Yeah.
good.
So you it was kind of like you take the good with the bad or the bad with the good.
Yeah, or I wanted, and a lot of it too, honestly, was just that when somebody is good to you,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I realized this very early on with him. I was like, okay, well, I know what provokes the bad, so I
Right.
won't do those things.
Right.
But see, I didn't see that as manipulation. I saw it as I'm just making the relationship work.
Work.
I'm trying to keep the peace. But I also had this hope because when somebody is good to you, I thought, okay, he's capable of being good to me. So
Mm-hmm.
I need to figure out how he can be good to me all the
All the
time.
time. Right.
And so through gaslighting, manipulation, he was also intimidating me with physical aggression and these angry outbursts and things. I was sort of being molded into what he wanted. I just didn't realize it because it's such an insidious thing that, I was feeling like I was to blame for provoking his anger. So I didn't want to do that, but I wanted to be everything he wanted me to be so that I could get this good side of him. Because there was hope, I thought. If I could always bring this good side out in him, everything would be fine. Everything will be fine. So just don't poke a sleeping bear. Leave the bad stuff over there. But the problem is that as time went on, he kept pushing the boundaries. And this is what narcissists do. You haven't left them for what they've already done. So every time they do something else, which we'll call bad, they push that limit just a little bit more. Not enough to where it'll make you leave them because you haven't left already. They push it just enough to where they're kind of sort of getting you accustomed to worser behavior and what's to come. So by the time from point A to point B being 25 years later for me, I looked back and said, how did we get from throwing a compact disc? If anyone doesn't know what that is, that's these round things we used to play music on. But how did we get from throwing a compact disc across the room at me to shooting guns and knives and having the police coming to the house and having these domestic violence situations? And that's the scary part, because it is, as time goes on, it gets progressively worse because I will say I hadn't left. I hadn't done anything. I hadn't called the police. I hadn't reported it. So he knew he could get away with it. So then he would get away with more. Then he got away with more, and
Mhm.
he got away with all of it.
Well, let me ask you a question. Do you think uh if you challenge these type of people who have these narcissistic behaviors, that they kind of back down, or did maybe they back down for a period of time and then it just comes back?
You know, they probably all have their quirks, but no, 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 no. You don't. If you challenge them, if you stand up for yourself or call them out on their behavior or their words, they will do everything to save face. You see, there's nothing wrong with them. You are the problem.
Mm.
You are the problem. And you saying anything about anything that has happened or anything that they said or did makes you more of a problem, and you will suffer for it. You
Wow.
know, and it's little things like my ex used to lay on the couch in the evenings to watch stupid TV shows, but he kept this nasty, nasty knife sitting right there on the coffee table next to him. Why? Had he ever put it up to me or threatened me or sliced me with it? No, but it was there, and he made sure I knew it was there. I always say it's like having a shock collar on a dog. The dog knows the boundaries of the property. The dog knows it'll get zapped if it crosses those boundaries. So that knife was doing the same thing to me. So
Mm.
you can call it whatever you want, but that's abuse, to put fear
Right.
into somebody so they are not speaking there. I mean, I didn't move. I didn't want to do anything because the slightest thing, depending on his mood, would provoke him. And
That's
I didn't want to get stabbed.
that's mental right there. That's
It is.
no.
It's mental, absolutely. And, you know, one of the reasons that I decided to come out with my story is
Mhm.
because it's not just the mental aspects. I mean, yeah, the depression, the anxiety, CPTSD, you get all these triggers and all this stuff that you carry with you that you have to work through. But the way your mind and your body work together, I never, ever in a million years thought that what happened to me would happen. But because of all this, what the doctors call stress, I call it abuse and living in a toxic situation and a lot of other things. I mean, you know, but call it stress. I had so much cortisol, which is the stress hormone that's sort of like adrenaline. It runs through your body under times of really, really high stress, like when you're being intimidated or if you're in a situation where you're very fearful. I had so much cortisol running through my body for 4 decades of my life that I ended up getting very sick at the end of 2018. And the doctors couldn't figure out what it was. It was actually Mayo Clinic that finally figured it out. They ran the cortisol test. They called me and they said, well, we're going to need to run it again because we got the results back, but there's no way the results are this high. They were about 4 times higher of what they should be. So they thought that the labs were compromised.
Mhm.
So I did the test again, and the test results were accurate. The cortisol was running through my body at such high rates for so long that my white blood cells, those are the blood cells that protect your immunity. They fight
Mhm.
against
Yeah.
viruses and keep you healthy. They thought it had to eradicate all this cortisol in my body that they started killing themselves. So my white blood cell count dropped so low that I was considered autoimmune, which was why I was experiencing over 2 dozen symptoms that were playing musical chairs with me daily. And
Wow.
I was also diagnosed with a rare lung syndrome that the doctor said is like having COPD and fibromyalgia all at the same time. But what this did to my body, other than the symptoms, is that I dropped down in a 2 week period. I was so stressed out that I dropped to 93 pounds. I lost, it was somewhere between 15 or 20 pounds. I dropped to 93 pounds.
In
No
20?
44-year-old, yeah, no 44-year-old woman should be 93 pounds.
Yeah,
That
yeah.
is not normal. I was skeletal. I remember looking in the mirror. I'm getting chills just thinking about it and looking at my reflection. I mean, my face was almost gray and my cheeks were hollow. You could see my bones and every vein and every muscle in my arms and in my, I mean, it's not it's not the kind of weight loss any woman wants to go
Oh,
through. It was scaring me. And the other thing that scared me was basic things like I was having trouble. I couldn't tear toilet paper off the roll. I couldn't at 44 take care of my own, hygiene and my functions. I couldn't pick up a dryer sheet to put in the dryer with the laundry. I was losing function. And then I needed a backpack oxygen unit to wear with a face mask to breathe.
really?
And I was so terrified because I did not realize, I never would have imagined that so-called stress could do this to a person. I thought I was doing the right thing. I'm a faithful person. I thought I was doing right by my faith, staying in a marriage, especially since I knew who he was when I married him. I honestly had doubts about marrying him, but I did it. So I thought,
Mhm.
made your bed, lie in it. We had a son together. My son had even approached me when he was in his, I don't know, 13, 14 years old and said, please don't leave dad. I know you want to divorce dad, but please don't do it until after high school when I leave for college, because he's going to make life a living hell and I don't want to be here for it. So I promised my son, I didn't want to break up his family. I didn't want to do that. And, there's all these reasons we stay, but I had no idea that it was killing me inside, literally, to remain in this situation.
So
So,
it was mental, it was the mental, the physical, and it took a toll on your body. You know,
yes,
that's very scary situation. I mean, and this is what, in the span of 25 years?
we were together 25 years total. Yeah, because after it was about the end of 2019, I still hadn't gotten any better. I was still trudging to get through every day, suffering. And I went to the doctor again and they ran more tests. And the doctor, I'll never forget him saying, your body is shutting down. And I'm like, what do you mean? I'm not like at 90, I'm not on hospice.
Yeah.
And he said, your body's not functioning. He said, your heart is barely beating. It's beating just enough to keep your lungs going. But he said, that's why you're having, your muscles are stiffened. My hands were numb. My arms were starting to go numb, like neuropathy going up to my
Mhm.
spine. I was losing vision, blacking out constantly, getting dizzy, double vision. Even when I drove once, I was driving and blacked out while I was driving. He said, your body's shutting down. He said, if you don't get out of whatever is causing you all this stress, he said, you're going to die. And I'm like, there's no way. There's no way. I'm suffering. I'm not well, but there's no way that I can die from this. And he said, yes, stress really can kill you. So that's kind of when I had to have a heart to heart with myself. And I had to, I mean, I'll never forget that night. I was staying in my basement because the love was lost with my ex-husband about 15 years prior to that. So I was staying in my basement and sleeping on our sofa down there. But I was laying there one night by myself, just staring at the ceiling. And I just remember saying, this isn't what I want. I never thought my life would, like, how did I even get here? And then I started to think about life. And I'm like, what do I want? What if I could have any wish? If a genie came and said, I'll grant you 3 wishes, what do you want? And nobody had ever asked me what I wanted because I was raised by my stepfather, who was a narcissist. And now I'm with this man that I'm married to who's a narcissist. My whole life, people have been dictating to me how to act, what to say, what to wear, what to eat, what to read, where I could go, who I could be friends. I mean, everything in my life had been told to me. And so I was like, I'm not even living my life. I'm living
Wow.
somebody else's life. And this sucks. It's killing me. It
Yeah.
literally is killing me. So I'm like, what do I want? I gave myself that grace to say, what do I want? And you
Mhm.
know what? I answered right away. I'm like, well, I went to college for journalism. I'd always wanted to be a writer. I minored in psychology because I always, since I was probably 12 years old, had this passion in me to understand human behavior because
Mhm.
I wanted to understand why my mother and stepfather treated me the way they did. And I wanted to understand how I could overcome it and how I could heal. And then I wanted to share that with other people. I'd always had this passion, but I never got to do that. I
Mhm.
never even got to pursue a career in writing because my ex couldn't have me doing anything that brought me success or achievements or joy. And God forbid financial freedom, because then I could leave him, you
Yeah.
know? So
Yeah.
I knew I wanted that and I wanted to travel and honestly, people take this for granted, but I just wanted to be happy.
Right. Yeah.
I
And
mean, I
yeah.
wanted to be married. I thought I would make a great wife, just not to the person I was actually married to. And so it was really important to me for my life, for my livelihood to have asked myself that question because once I had that vision, I want to be a writer. I want to help other victims or survivors of abuse. I want to travel. I want to be married to somebody who actually, I mean, if they like me, that would be a step ahead from
Right.
where I am now.
Right.
But
Right.
it sure
Right.
would be nice to have the love I had to give reciprocated. So I think at that point, that's when I decided I'm going to talk to an attorney. I need to get out of this, and I just need to trust that my son will understand and know that this is just more than mom going back on a promise. Mom's trying to save her life,
Right.
in every way possible. So I did talk to an attorney and I had some homework to do before I could file. And less than 2 weeks later, we went into the shelter in place for COVID.
Mm.
So I was
Oh,
stuck in the
wow.
house with this man.
Oh,
And
wow.
that was the whole adventure in itself. But that's when I started keeping a record
Mhm.
because he was threatening me in text messages and in emails, threatening to kill me, making, evasive remarks about one of us should be dead. It would be easier that way. So I was afraid he was going to do something and maybe make it look like I went nuts. It was convenient that it was COVID, so people were,
Right.
having
Right. Exactly. Hello?
narcissist does that I was crazy, so that's when I started keeping my notebook. I was keeping a record for myself of, date, time, this is what was said, this is what happened, this is what the message he sent me. And I kept this notebook under my couch cushion in the basement because I figured I had pretty much decided I was living down there because I didn't want to be anywhere in the rest of the house near
Right.
him. But then one day I decided, you know what? I have time. Nobody's working during COVID. I'm going to elaborate on these stories because I think that there's no way I'm the only person going through this. And I think people need to understand that no matter what your reasons for staying are, unless they are literally out of fear for your life, which I understand, people need to start thinking about themselves and getting out of these situations. So that's what I did. And that beyond that point, once the courts did reopen, I found a different attorney who had me divorced within 3 weeks. But, I always tell people, just like I told my son when I didn't even tell my son I filed for divorce. I didn't tell him about the divorce till
Mm.
after it happened. And he was upset, but I said, listen to me. I wish a divorce meant the relationship was over, but all a divorce is a piece of paper saying who gets what financial
Exactly.
assets. But
Mhm.
I said, this relationship is still going. This man would not move off my property. He had moved out of our main house, but we had like a little in-law house on our
Mhm.
farm. So he moved into that. He would not move off the property, even though the house was given to me and my son in the divorce. After the divorce, it was maybe 6 to 8 weeks after I went to my sister's wedding and I took a date you know, somebody I'd known for a long time who, you know, we were very friendly, and honestly, I liked him a little more than friends, and that's okay. But my ex found out, and that's when we had a knife incident in the middle of the night, and another night after that, he yelled and shot a gun off outside my house. And sadly, the authorities didn't help me out. They didn't take him away. They wouldn't press charges. So I was forced to leave my house that my name was on without anyone else, because this man just would not leave me alone. But fortunately, after it took me about 5 months to get him off of my property and get him moved away. He moved 7 miles from us, so he is still very close by. I live every day looking over my shoulder. I have security cameras everywhere where I live. It's not the best situation, but it's what it is. And it's, you know, I just don't like to sugarcoat anything, because it is a sad thing that people can't let go and that they have to hold on. He has somebody living with him, you know, for a while now, but he still once in a while will, you know, affect me in some way, whether it's a text message or
Really?
unfortunately we pass down the main road and he might glare at me or he might wave. I never know. It's very hard to negotiate his mindset, but I just remind myself that I'm out, I'm safe. I have a lot of people who are very aware and who are going to protect me. And if something happens at this point, everybody's going to know who it is. So, you know, I think the beautiful thing about it is that since removing him from my life, you know, it's very interesting to me how 40 some years of my life, in my childhood, then in my 25 years with this man, all I heard was negative. You can't, you won't, you aren't, you never will. Everything was negative. This story around me and about who I was and what I could be and how I could live was always diminishing. It was always discouraging. And now, since removing myself from that toxicity, and I am choosing who I allow to come close to me and within my circle. Unfortunately, it's not all family. Some family had to be pushed outside that circle. Some friends or people that I thought were my ride or dies, they're not in that circle. You know, there was a lot of betrayal and a lot of, you know, insult, you know, in the process of transitioning from that life to my new one, because I started setting boundaries. I started saying to Dana, it's okay if I say no to somebody. I don't need everybody to like me.
That's right.
I don't need everybody to understand me, because you know what? Now that I'm surrounded by people who uplift me and encourage me, and I don't want anyone to think I am not surrounding myself with yes men. I am not surrounding myself with people that kiss my butt, but these are people who think highly of me. Some of them, like the people at my church, probably think I'm a better person than what I really am. But that makes me want to be better. I want to be that better person. So I am growing as a human being. I am blooming in this very fertile soil that I am now living in. You know, I don't have anything hindering me. So I am blossoming. I've been out of my previous marriage for 3 years, okay?
Yes.
Just over 3 years. In that time, I have become healthy. I don't even know when the last time I needed my oxygen machine was. I have put on weight. I don't have symptoms anymore. I still have the diagnosis, it's permanent, but I don't have the symptoms. I am remarried to that friend that I took as a date. I'd known him a long time, and I knew his family over 16 years before, you know, we started, you know, coupling up, I guess is the right word. But, you know, what an amazing thing to be married to a man we were friends first, and we had that foundation of trust, and there's a loyalty with us. But even more so, he also thinks so highly of me. So when I have all these people reflecting these positive ideas back to me, even if they see me fail, or maybe they see me maybe not always acting, or maybe I've said something that's uncharacteristic, and they think I could be a better person, they'll call me out on it.
Yeah.
But I am striving every day to be better. And now my mind's, instead of thinking like I can't, I won't, I never will, because of the people around me, my mindset has shifted to, oh no, I will do more. It's happening. And like the sky's the limit.
Wow.
I never thought 3 years ago that I would be a full-time writer, that I would have written 3 books, one of which is already published. I would have never thought I would have never thought I would have been remarried. I wasn't sure I was even going to live, never mind be healthy again. So it's just amazing to me by just saying, what do you want? Because it's a simple question, but some of us have never been asked that. We've never been permitted even the idea of being allowed to be ourselves and living an authentic life. But gosh, let me tell you, when you are living, well, authentic is the right word. When you are living true to who you are and filling your soul every day, that's authenticity. And there's nothing but that's a joy that you will never find anywhere else.
Wow. Wow. It's amazing how what you went through and how you came out on the other end, and you are experiencing what you should, or what we as humans we expect to experience. And it's just happy, just to be happy, and have joy in our lives, and what you had to go through to finally get it. And I look at that, and it's like, the relationships with narcissists can leave lasting scars. They can leave lasting scars. And you were able to come out of that, and establish boundaries, healthy boundaries, get your life back in order, get your health back in order. And it's just commendable and courageous on your part. A lot of people probably, I'm not going to say a lot of people, but sometimes people cannot recover from that, even to go into another marriage, even to go into another type of another relationship, because of what has happened to them in the past. And that's courage in itself. I mean, to be 25 years with that, and then you're still going through this, and you're with someone, and you're like, okay, I'm going to give this a second chance. And sometimes in the back of your head, it may be, well, is he going to be like my previous? Should I give my all? Should I do this? But
that's exactly right.
Courageous.
But it is a risk, because honestly, I was going to do like everybody else that comes out of an abusive situation. Every one of us is going to head for the hills, and we are going to be alone, and we don't trust anybody, and we're not going to date. And I don't know what I would have had to do if I was going to date, because I think it was different for me. I mean, whether people believe in God or not, I've had numerous people in my life, and I believe that it's like God was just gracing me with a blessing of this man, because I had already known him. And like I said, I knew his dad and I were buddies, and his sister-in-law and I were friends. My son knew the family. So he was like, oh, okay, yeah, sure, be with him. It wasn't a thing, because we already had that established foundation. But it's not to say it wasn't a risk, because we've been married a couple of years.
Okay.
But I'm going to tell you that even to this day, right here, as I'm sitting here right now, I get doubts once in a while. Not that he does or says anything that makes me question whether I should be with him, but I don't trust myself. You
Right.
know, did I make the right decision? Am I seeing this? Is this just a normal thing, or is this a narcissistic tendency? Am I not seeing, you know, because you question everything. And even my husband, you know, we had this conversation not that long ago where trust came up, and I looked at him, and I'm very direct. So I said very matter of factly, well, I don't trust you completely. And he was horrified. He said, but I'm your husband. I said, there's like two people in my life, two, that I 100% trust in any situation with anything with me, two.
Wow.
And one is my godmother, and one is her son, who's like a brother to me, but we've been through it together. And those are the only two people. I trust everybody on some certain level, and my husband is high up there. I told him he ranks up there, but it's going to take me a long time and a lot of, I hate to say it, kind of proving to me through actions that I can fully trust
Right.
him. But I need to, you know, I'm glad that I have enough respect for myself now, and I'm loving myself and I'm loving life, but I still have a lot of self-doubt. I will always question everything and overthink it because I want to make sure that I am not putting myself in another situation where I'm going to get hurt by somebody else who's trying to cause me intentional harm. So, you know, it's still a struggle. It's a fairy tale ending, absolutely, but it doesn't come without its struggles. And it wasn't just a risk for me, it was a risk for him because, you
Yeah,
know, he knew what
exactly.
he was getting into, but he didn't know what he was getting into.
It could have went either way. It could have went either way.
It could have went either way, but you know, at the end of the day, I just thought to myself, okay, I don't take marriage lightly. Please understand that. But I knew that I deserved to be in a loving relationship despite everything in the rest of my life. And even though I should have gone, I was going to go to North Carolina and live in the Smoky Mountains with a Great Dane and be a writer and just work on me and do all the stuff we talk about. But you know what? He was here and now. I
Yeah.
had a chance and I had to make a decision. And I thought, what the heck? Because I deserve love. And what's the worst that can happen? It doesn't work out.
Doesn't work
Am
out.
I any less off? But I trusted him that he's not, you know, the type that things would end badly, even if they ended, because we'd always been friends
But
first.
you knew,
So
yeah.
so I
That
knew I was in good hands, whether it worked out or not. But, you know, I thank God every day. Sometimes I pinch myself that he has been extremely patient and gentle with me. And he has shown me a lot of things too. He has shown me how to be myself, because even when he is not exactly liking what I'm saying or
Mhm.
doing, he might express it, but he knows that's me. And he doesn't want me to be anything but who I am. And
Wow.
I love that he doesn't want to change me or diminish me. And I want that for him. And the other thing I love about him is that, you know, it's interesting to me that I used to take his, you know, he's been divorced much longer than I have, but he just goes and lives his life every day.
Yeah.
He considers me in that, but he's just going and living his life and being true to himself.
Mhm.
In the beginning, I took that as, oh my God, he's abandoning me. He's rejecting me. He doesn't want me to be a part of this or a part of that. But you know what I realized? I thought about it one day. I'm like, I had been a bird locked in this cage.
Mhm.
Now I'm out of this cage and I was ready to fly off and be like, sayonara, see you later. I'm done. I'm out.
Yeah. Yeah.
But this man is holding me. He's holding me in the palms of his hands, and I am free to fly and do and be whatever I need to be. But
Wow.
his hands are always going to be there. And so I learned little by little, I could leave the palms of his hands,
Mhm.
go and do Dana and be who I am and whatever that is. and his hands are always going to be there to come home to.
Oh, that's beautiful. But that's so beautiful, Dana.
And it is. But, fairy tale blessing, whatever it is that, I was granted this beautiful relationship now. It may not happen like that for everybody, but I want everybody to know that no matter what you've been through, you can have a healthy relationship and you can have love. I don't want people to close themselves off to love like I almost did,
Right,
because we
right.
all deserve it. We do have to love ourselves first, though, but
We
it
do.
definitely helps when we have other love in our lives, because no matter what kind of healing tools you read about or learn about in therapy, and no matter how much you love yourself, you'll never learn how to actually have a healthy relationship unless you put those things to practice.
Mhm.
So
Yeah,
you need to get out there and try. When you're ready, get
right.
out there and try, because there is a beautiful life waiting for everybody.
Yeah. What kind of and support are available for narcissistic abuse, and how can people who are going through that access them?
There are so many opportunities available to people. I'm going to say this, not everybody has the financial
Mhm.
ability, or, lives in geographical areas that have everything available to them. So I always say start at home, start with you. The one thing that you can do that's very practical and easy and costs nothing, just start self-care, which can also be called self-love.
Mhm.
Indulge your little whims. If you want to put on, even if you're just vacuuming the house, put on that red lipstick that you bought that you wear when you go out dancing, for
That's
real.
right.
Because
That's
you know
right.
what? When you look at the mirror and you're like, I
I look
look good.
good. That's
It makes
right.
you feel good. It does, though. It lifts your spirits.
Yes.
Paint your nails, paint your toes, put on a dress,
Mm-hmm.
go somewhere, go have a glass of wine with it, whatever it is you want to do. You want to go for a run, you want to get some energy out, but just listen to music, dance in the kitchen when you're cooking,
Yes.
make yourself something nice to eat. Even if it's just you, get the steak, get the lobster, do it up, like these little things that you do to take care of yourself are going to go so far. They're going to put you in a better mindset to be able to accept whatever therapy or healing comes to you. But
Yeah.
then beyond that, I always tell people, whatever it is that, kind of resonates with you, do it. For me, I'm a writer.
Mm-hmm.
Traditional talk therapy, not my thing, but I found writing therapy by accident, and it was phenomenal. I made leaps and bounds with my CPTSD. Even my husband has noticed, he's like, you're so much less reactive. You're able to handle hard situations and triggers so much better because of the writing therapy. But there's music therapy, there's art therapy. I've even seen dance therapy, yoga therapy with goats, which I haven't tried yet, but I just want to go pet the goats. But whatever it is that you need to do, it's out there and available to you. And certainly, if anyone wants to follow me on Facebook or Instagram, I post every day, and I do provide different resources that are made available to me or that I have tried personally. I will post information about them if anybody's interested in knowing about them.
Please, can you just let my listeners know where, give them your website and your information? Just
Yeah, absolutely. My website's probably the best place to go to start with, danasdiaz.com. It's DANASDIAZ.com. And on there, you will see the links to Facebook and Instagram. I also have the link there if anyone's interested in buying the book, or you can buy it on Amazon or wherever books are sold.
Mhm.
And I will also have this podcast available on my press room page with other interviews that I have done. So everything's really on there. And from there, however anybody wants to keep communication with me, I am absolutely open to people messaging me on social media or emailing me from the website. I'm not a doctor or therapist or lawyer, but I am absolutely here to support everybody. And you will actually hear from me, not some AI or some assistant. So,
Mhm.
definitely reach out, let me know how you're doing or how I can help you and direct you.
Oh, thank you, Dana. In closing, I would just like to extend my heartfelt thanks to you again for joining me on my podcast and sharing your invaluable insights on this type of abuse. Um, Please, listeners, Dana's book is Gasping for Air: The Stranglehold of a Narcissistic Abuse. Please, if you can read it, please go to, I think it's on, I saw it's on Amazon. You can get it from her
It
website,
is.
right? Uh,
Yes.
Please read it. So you can just have a little bit more insight into this type of abuse. And remember, if you or someone you know is currently experiencing this type of abuse or trying to recover from it, there is hope and support. Reach out to the resources Dana mentioned and start your healing journey. Start it, please. Again, thank you, Dana, for shedding light on this important topic and empowering my listeners with the knowledge they need to protect themselves and reclaim their lives. And we are truly grateful. I'm grateful for your time and your wisdom. And I
Thank
thank
you
you
so
so
much.
much. Join me next time where I will continue to discuss more of today's issues. You can hit me up on Instagram, Facebook, or YouTube, or email me at sheilas-take@outlook.com for topics you would like to discuss or if you would like to be a guest on Sheila's Take. I am your host, Sheila Dunbar. Blessings to you.